it, you know, whether it's urgent, important, not urgent, not important, and you kind of sort of rank everything. Well, I don't do that consciously, but I kind of think it that way. I try and filter that way, and every morning I start with the to-do list, and I sort of write out what I know I need to get done that day, and I do rank things, in terms of urgency and importance to what I want to achieve that day. And so that's one thing I do, and I think it's a good practice. It kind of starts you off in the right direction during the day, and even if you don't get everything on your list done, you get more accomplished, I think, when you make the list than when you don't. Excuse me. So, I think it's very important to begin with the end in mind. If you don't know where you're going, odds are you're never going to get there. And the other important thing is, if you do know where you're going, you want to road map in terms of how to get there in the best way and fastest way possible. The other thing I think that has attributed to my success is sort of creativity, thinking outside of the box. I'll give you a couple of examples of that. So I told you when Skadden went through the layoffs in the early 90s when M&A pretty much dried up, I thought, here I have 3 kids, and what can I do to sort of ensure that I'm either more valuable to the firm, that they don't want to lay me off, or if they do lay me off, that I can, land successfully. And I thought, I don't have the time to be out there playing golf for hours trying to develop business. I have to think, best use of my time kind of thing. So I looked at the corporate law area, and I thought, okay, what am I doing that's sort of the broadest interest? And I thought, a lot of these shareholder inspection cases are sort of interesting in that, I don't think a lot of shareholders know they have the right to look at the company's books and records. All they need is 1 share of stock, and they can write to the company and say, I'd like to see your financial statements. I'd like to see what your expenses are and that sort of thing. And all they need is a proper purpose, and that's anything related to their shareholdings. And that sort of coincides with the Enron implosion and some corporate frauds on Wall Street. And I said, shareholders have a policing action. They can use these books and records demands to get the company's books and records. And that's something that every shareholder in America ought to want to know about. So I kind of drafted a short article, and I sent it around to Barron's and Fortune. And Barron's actually picked it up and paid me $1,000 for it. And then once I had that, it snowballs so that you're able to say, oh, I've written for Barron's. Now, Fortune, you should publish this article. And then, they did. And then I said, oh, I've written for Barron's and Fortune, CNBC. You might want to have me on this topic. And so then I was on CNBC Money Talk with Ted David. So things steamroll, but you think no other associate was thinking anything along those lines, and that helped me get credentialed for the next move. It helped me develop business, helped me, show that I was someone that knew what I was talking about in the corporate area. So I think thinking outside the box and being creative in terms of your career is important. The other example is developing this whole IP risk management thing. I do corporate governance. I don't really do a lot of the IP. I leave that to the PhD attorneys in our firm. But I thought, this is sort of a meshing of what our firm is most known for in my area of practice, which is the corporate governance. And now we've got a collaboration with KPMG and one of the major accounting firms and everything. And it's something that I've sort of developed that's becoming a huge business area for the firm. And that's something that, lawyers are traditionally known for. So it's, kind of thinking outside the box where the needs are, where the opportunities are, and looking behind, not just being wedded to what everybody else is doing. I think I talked a little bit about this, but I think triage, especially when you've got so much on your plate, is so important. And learning to delegate, giving more junior people opportunity, and then they want to work for you because they want those opportunities. And so I think that's something I've, tried to do. I realized one of the things I did wrong early on, I think, was trying to control too much of my practice, and that got to be, I think, a little bit too much of a burden, and now I'm, since I've given associates opportunities, I, help them, I monitor what they're doing, let them run through the argument that they're going to give to the judge with me so I can see how they're doing and that sort of thing. But I don't feel like I have to do everything myself, and it's building the leaders, below you to, help bring them up, and I think not just a help to me, but it's an obligation that I have. It's so important, I think, to maintain relationships, because so much of law, so much of business is relationships. So the people that you're meeting here, I mean, it's not just, and it sounds sort of callous to say you're maintaining them to develop your career, but it's friendships. It's just, keeping up with your friends. And, I'm guilty of not keeping up with a lot of my Houghton friends just because we didn't have the means to keep up back then. But you guys do now. I mean, with the internet and with all the social networks and everything, you can develop your own friendships or keep up with your own friendships and then, friend their friends and that sort of thing, and really develop the networks that you need or that can help you advance, but can help them advance too. It's sort of a mutual thing, and it's just doing what you should be doing anyway as, I think, a believer and a friend, that, stay in touch with the folks you care about. And, looking for efficiencies. And this is, again, part of being, I think, trying to have a life and a career is just looking for ways that you can, feel like you're spending the kind of time that you need to spend and want to spend with your family, and getting, your client the most efficient, because, the clients are looking for efficiencies too. So the most efficient outcome consistent with their business goals. And so, looking for efficiencies on the family side, I give the example of my mother, used to make homemade stuff, and, the house smelled like, baked goods and that sort of thing. And so I wanted to give a little of that to my kids, but, I don't have too much time to do it from scratch. So I get those, pre-made cookie dough kind of things and slap those in the oven. It takes 5-10 minutes or whatever. House smells just as good. They've got their fresh cookies. Just stupid stuff like that, but also multitasking. And this is something women are supposed to actually be better at than men. But my day typically involves, getting up around 6, getting my kids off to school, spending a little time with them at the beginning of the day, and then finding my quiet time with the Lord. And, that is so important, I think, to get me grounded and keep my perspective